Good morning, everybody. Welcome to my googology course. So in this googology course, we'll be covering like the basics of googology. And of course, we're gonna cover more. And we're gonna cover notations and so on. Today, we're gonna be learning about a basic notation, which is arrow notation. So for this video, I'm going to assume that you already have knowledge of succession, addition, multiplication, and exponentation in numbers. Now, let's start with an example. What's 3 with an up arrow to 3? Now, you would think, what does this mean? You haven't even taught me this yet. So, let's teach you. 3 up arrow 3 is 3 to the power of 3, making 27. That is the first thing that we are going to cover. A singular up arrow means exponentation. Now say you got n up arrow m. So it means n to the power of m, of course. Now we could increase the amount of arrows. Say n double arrow m. What does this mean? This means you do n to the power of n to the power of n to the power of n and so on. Total of m times. So, here's an example. 3 double up arrow 3. What will that be? It will be 3 up arrow 3 up arrow 3. And that is 20... No. It's 3 to the power of 3 to the power of 3. Now it's 3 to the power of 27. And that is 7625597484987. And that number is just a lot, right? A literal ton. But we can go beyond this. Say 3 triple up arrow 3. What does this equal? We've learned that the double arrow can be broken down into singular arrows. So what does this tell us? 3 triple up arrow 3 means 3 double arrow 3 double arrow 3. As you can see, we have 3 times like here. So this is in fact correct. Now from this point on, you can break it down by calculating it from left to right. First, what is 3 double up arrow 3? We have learned this. It is 3 single arrow 3 single arrow 3. And we will double arrow that by 3, which means this up arrow to itself, then up arrow to itself. And that is roughly how we calculate in arrow notation. So, I think that would be all to cover for arrow notation. Now, we can move on to your exercises. I'll give you around, say, 4 questions maybe? Yeah, let's give you 4 questions. 10, double up arrow 10, singular up arrow 2. That is your first question. Number 2, I will do it a little bit complex. Say, like 2 up arrow, up arrow, up arrow. So we got n amount of up arrows, right? To 2. What will that equal? I want you to find that too. Number 3. It'll get a little bit complex from this point on. I'm going to give you 10 triple up arrow 10. Number 4. 3 quadruple up arrow 10. Triple up arrow 2. Now, I recommend you pause the video so you can find the answer to all these questions. If you've paused the video already and made your 4 decisions on your answer for each question, let's go over them now. First off, 10 double arrow 10 singular arrow 2. We can break it down. Start by calculating from left to right. 10 double arrow 10 is 10 to the power of itself 10 times, right? Then we will up arrow that by 2. So for convenience, I want to label this as A, which means it's going to be A to the power of 2. This means it's 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 10, so on. So it's 10 double arrow 10 to the power of 2. And that is how we calculate it. First question, clear. Second question. We have n amount of up arrows, and it's 2 to 2. To break this down simply, it's 2 with n minus 1 arrows to 2 and n minus 1 arrows. Then from this point on, it's going to be a long process because you need to keep breaking it down until the n becomes 1. Question 2, clear. Question 3, 10 triple up arrow 10. How will we break this down with the knowledge that we've learned? First off, we can break it down into double up arrows. Now for convenience, let's write it as arrow squared. Arrow squared 10, and so on, in a total of 10 times. From this point on, start calculating. What's 10 double arrow 10? It should be 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 10, so on, 10 times. Now, from this point on, you need to double arrow this by 10, and so on. And that number is really large already, compared to numbers that you might already know, such as a million, billion, trillion, quadrillion, I don't know, gazillion. I don't think that's a real one though. Or a Googleplex. No. 10 triple arrow 10 just outnumbers all of them. According to the calculations that I did. Yeah. Now 3 quadruple up arrow 10, triple up arrow 2. Maybe I went a little overboard with this one. So it's 3 arrow cubed, which is defined as triple up arrows for convenience. It will be this 10 times. I will denote this as A for now. Capital A. Now we get A triple up arrow 2, right? That is A double up arrow A. And from this point on, we can continue. A double arrow itself is what? A to the power of A to the power of A to the power of A. A times. It is really huge. Question 4 clear. And question 3 clear. So now we've understand it, what the arrow notation does. So 3, up arrow 3, 27, 3, double up arrow 3, 7, 6, 2, 5, 5, 9, 7, 4, 8, 4, 9, 8, 7. Which is also 3 to the power of 27. Then you can continue from that point on and create larger numbers with larger amounts of arrows every time. That will be all for part 1. So I'll see you in the next part, and in the next part we will be covering how Graham's number is made. Bye bye.